it'd be called a strikeout. I'm probably much more suited for a podcast called Brain Damaged Bodybuilders and Buffoonery.
Well, based on the comedy in your book, you ought to just be a stand-up comedian. Hello, Courage, Confidence, Connections podcast fans. Welcome back. I have a very special guest today, Dale Parkinson, and we're just going to have fun. You get to laugh at this one for sure. And before we go any further, I just want to let you know, if you can see this, we're going to have his book available to be purchased at the end of the podcast. You can click on a link that he'll send me and we'll get you your own copy. But we have a lot of funny stories, at least he does. I have my own funny stories, but it's about him today. So welcome, Dale.
Hello, Janice. It's such a pleasure to be here. Before we get started, I think I should point out I think you made a pretty serious mistake. You see, the title of your podcast is called Courage, Confidence, and Connections.
Mhm.
And I don't have any of those three qualities. I'm 0 for 3. If this was a baseball game, it'd be called a strikeout. I'm probably much more suited for a podcast called Brain Damaged Bodybuilders and Buffoonery.
Well, based on the comedy in your book, you ought to just be a stand-up comedian telling your stories. So, I aspire to do I do a lot of storytelling myself and I love making people smile and laugh. So that's what this is all about. We're not going to get heavy into high tech anything. I do have some questions, and
Sure.
first thing I'd like you to do is give our audience a little background on Dale. And you used to be in Oregon, so you relocated for sure down
Yeah.
to yeah, down to the big Las Vegas, or lost wages as they say.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. We're coming to you from Las Vegas today, where I think the temperature is probably 111 degrees. That's what it's been the last 3 days.
Oh,
But they say it's a dry heat, right?
I've
Of
heard
course,
that one before.
people that are burning in hell probably say the same thing.
Yeah, it's a dry heat. Well,
Yeah.
we're about half of the temperature. Can you believe that in June that we're around 55 degrees right now? And,
Oh, I have fond memories of those kind of temperatures because, as you know, I lived in Bend, which
mm,
is pretty close to you. You're in Redmond, right?
right.
So yeah, we were just there last week, and
I
it
saw
was
that.
like 95. I was shocked how hot it was. But once you get up into the 111-degree temperature zones, it gets kind of miserable.
Yeah, that's not my kind of weather. I visited Nevada one time and I think it got up into the hundreds. I think it was Nevada. No, not no. I've been in Nevada. Of course, that's where you are. Um, in Arizona, and
Mm.
it was the end of May, and they said, well, near Scottsdale, they said, well, it gets to be blah blah blah, 120, 130, and but it's dry heat. No, you can't be dry
I
enough.
know.
That can't be dry enough to be comfortable.
You can't.
Mm, no, no way. Not this kid.
For
Yeah.
3 months solid, we all live inside our homes and casinos and restaurants. Everything's air conditioned, and you just don't go outside during June, July, and August. It's just a given.
Do you
Maybe
have
at midnight
do you
you go
guys
outside
have
and jump in the pool.
do you have any underground tunnels that are air conditioned to go from one to the other?
Yeah, if we do, I'm sure they are air conditioned.
Yeah, that's
But
crazy, crazy. So you've gone through some massive changes and challenges in your life, and based on your book, you really turn it into like a little comedy of errors in your life. I would love for you to tell our audience some of a good story or two that you can share, because I tell you what, I started feeling like, wow, I'm dealing with listening to your reading your stories, wondering, oh my goodness, how does anybody get through some of this stuff? So
yeah, I actually should have died a couple of times, so pretty lucky. Well, let me on the back of the book, which I just happen to be holding here, it kind of lists what I went through, and I left out a couple of things. Like I did have kidney stones. I went through the joy of kidney stones one time, but I've gone through throat surgery, tendons ripped off the bone in both arms and never reattached, torn pectoral muscle, multiple hernias, three shoulder surgeries, with one ending in a complete knee replacement, serious melanoma operation, leaving a 10-inch scar on my back, removal of 6 lymph nodes, prostate cancer, more cortisone prolotherapy and PRP injections than I can count, stem cell injections and IVs, a liver biopsy. Just tell me when to stop if I'm boring you. Nerve nerve damage in my left foot, causing me to wear a hospital walking boot for 6 months. Massive life-threatening blood clots in my leg. Borderline diabetes, high blood pressure, cholesterol, dangerously high calcium buildup in my heart, and I was 70 pounds overweight at the time too. 3 root canals and a partridge in a pear tree.
No kidding. You could
So,
totally, although there's more than 12 days there.
right. I call it my 8 years of purgatory between the ages of 58 and 66. I
No
went through all of
kidding.
that, and but somehow managed to come out on the other side and do quite well.
Well, absolutely. And your story is phenomenal. And I laughed the first half of the book, I guess, or first third. I just sat there and laughed at how you told stories on yourself. So, yeah, give us a good one. What do you think? You have a good
Oh my gosh. Yeah, there's so many. The first one I think that comes to mind was blood clots in my leg. My granddaughter Emma came to me one day and said, "Grandpa Parky," that's what they call me, Grandpa Parky. Uh, can you come? She was having a talent show, and she didn't know what to do. She didn't think she had any talent, but she wanted to be in the talent show, and
Oh,
she was probably about 7 years old. And she goes, will you teach me how to dance? And will you come to my class and dance with me for the talent show?" And so I'm thinking, okay, a class of kids, what, 25 kids maybe, and a teacher, I can do that. That's no problem. And but then her brother came up to me and he said, "No, Dale, when she says come to her class, she means the entire school's going to be there, and all their parents, probably up to 1,000 people, are going to be watching you." So I said, "Emma, honey, your dad's a builder. Why don't you two build a birdhouse? Wouldn't that be great?" Instead, she said, "No, no, Grandpa, I want to dance with you." So she would come over about 2 weeks before the show, and we worked out this cute little routine together, country swing. And her mom bought her a neat little cowgirl outfit, with the cowboy hat and the dress and the cowboy boots. And I dressed up like a cowboy, and we went there, and we were scared to death. We walked in, there's 1,000 people watching you, and it's, oh my God, it's just incredible. But we got through the dance okay, but I was in so much pain. My
mm,
left leg hurt so bad that morning that I came really close to canceling, but I wouldn't dare do that on my granddaughter. And so I loaded up on ibuprofens and about 4 shots of whiskey and every kind of painkiller I could take, and we went there and did really, really well. I think we got second place. We
oh,
got beat out by some kid who did a Michael Jackson impression.
oh,
They said
man.
the only reason we didn't win was the judges said I kind of carried Emma, which I did. I swung her around, but anyway, we were all done, and I could barely limp off the floor. And Brenda said, "God, we're taking you to the doctor." And so she took me to the doctor, and he looked at my leg and it was, "Oh my God, we got to get you over to the vein place, that
Oh, man.
x-rays veins and stuff." Rushed me over there and they scanned me and they said, "Oh my God, you've got 3 massive blood clots in your leg. One of them is 18 inches long."
Oh,
Usually when you think of a blood clot, they're, like that.
yeah.
No, mine 18 inches, 12 inches, and I think 9 inches. I had 3 of them.
Oh,
And so they laid me on the table there and gave me blood thinners. They wouldn't even let me get off the table or go home. They said, "God, you could die any minute. We're going to just try and get this thing thinned out right now." And so I'm laying on the table there, just kind of making jokes with the nurse, and I think I came up with some stupid, corny joke about why did the blood clot have to break up with the vein. Answer: couldn't handle the pressure. She goes, "That is so corny. I should have let you die right here on the table." But that's just a small sample of what I had to go through.
that is I don't know. You probably set a Guinness World Record for that blood clot.
Yeah, I think I did. They'd never seen one that long, let alone three, on a
Wow.
person still living anyway.
Wow.
Another time, uh, I went to the doctor. I had this mole on my back, and I went to the doctor and I said, "Will you take this thing off and have it biopsy?" He goes, "Oh, it's a regular mole. Don't worry about it. We'll just leave it."
Mhm.
And so I went home and Brenda looked at it and she goes, you get back there. You tell him you want that thing removed. And so I almost had to fight this guy to make him take it off. So he removed it, sent it in for a biopsy. About 4 or 5 days later, I get this frantic phone call from him. Oh my God, Dale, I am so, so sorry. You have serious melanoma. We got to rush you into the hospital right now. So into the hospital I go. And I remember laying there uh, on the gurney before they put me to sleep. And I could hear the doctor talking to the anesthesiologist on the other side of the curtain. And the anesthesiologist said, "Do you want him on his back or his side?" And I heard the doctor say, "I think this thing is headed for his lymph nodes if it's not already there. Let's go there first. Put him on his side. I want to pull those out." And that's the first time I'd ever heard the word lymph nodes mentioned. And I'm in there going, oh, wait, what? Lymph nodes. Nobody told me anything about lymph nodes. And so they put me to sleep. And I woke up later with about a 10-inch scar on my back and
Wow.
six lymph nodes gone. So I know that's where I kind of dodged death again. It was a pretty close call. So, and I've had so many surgeries, 8 of them to be exact, in that time span. Fake shoulder. I've got my right shoulder's metallic. My left knee is metallic. When I go through airport securities, bells and whistles go off. People think I'm smuggling a bazooka on board. They have to, TSA guys come rushing out and have to pat me up. And one guy, when I was in Las Vegas, he pulled me out and he goes, "I'm sorry, sir, but we're going to have to get intimate here."
Ah,
He said to reach into my groin and pat things out because it always shows something in my groin. It knows what this is and it knows what my knee is, but it's always picking up something there, and we don't know. Evidently, I've got some metallic object in there that we don't know about. And I always joke in the book. I said, "Well, probably some doctor in the middle of one of my many hernia surgeries accidentally lost his Rolex and it fell in there, and they stitched me up while he was flirting with a nurse." And so,
probably.
yeah,
Oh my
but
word. I can't even comprehend all that you've been through. I had surgery, as a kid, the tonsils and the
mhm.
appendix and that kind of thing. And I've had one major surgery as an adult. And that
Oh wow.
was, well, I had braces to correct an overbite and a crossbite. And the dentist, I mean the what do you call it? Orthodontist said, we can't fully correct this without surgery, so sent me to an oral surgeon. And I joke, I've never set off a metal detector, but I'm surprised because my whole face is wired and
Wow.
I've got screws and bolts and wires.
Oh,
Oh yeah, it was something else. And so for a while there, when I flew, I would take my X-rays just in case.
just to show them. So let's just save money, time, and trouble here. Look at these.
Yeah. So if you hear any metal detectors, here's my face.
Yeah.
And so they did a really good job. The surgeon was the best there was, but surgery just kind of gives me the, oh, no, no.
Oh yeah. I got so used to it. In fact, these all my surgeries were back when we lived in Bend, and they I think they all started to know me on a first name basis at the hospital there because in fact they should probably dedicate a wing of the hospital to me because I've spent so much money
Yeah.
on surgeries. But
Oh,
fortunately, I've gone for the last 3 years now without anything having to be operated on. So
oh, that's great.
fingers crossed.
So when did your rebuilding phase start? At what point in this series
Um,
of catastrophes?
it's Yeah, it started with the weight. Um, I was 70 pounds overweight. I weighed 260 pounds. Well, let me go back a little bit. Way, way, way back in 1983, I was Mr. Idaho, the state bodybuilding champion. And so I was used to having a pretty nice physique. And I was used to like taking my shirt off and going for bike rides back in those days, and getting a positive response. Let's just put it that way. Well, we moved to Bend, and I started to slack and let myself get overweight. But the male ego doesn't realize you're overweight. You're still thinking of yourself at 28 when you were this bodybuilding champion. Okay. So this one day we lived in Pronghorn out there in Bend, out in the desert, and I thought I'd take my shirt off and go for a bike ride and give the ladies a little eye candy, you know. And I'm riding my bike without my shirt on, and I overhear these two young girls over there in the sand trap. They're raking a sand trap, and one of them literally screams, "Look at that old fat guy riding his bike with his shirt off!" And so I'm looking over my shoulder, wondering where the fat guy is. I didn't realize it was me. So finally, when I realized there was nobody else on the trail but me, I turned my bike around and went back home and immediately jumped on the scale. And the scale said, well, one at a time, please. You know,
Yeah.
260 pounds. And that's when I realized, just like the astronauts on that ill-fated mission to Houston, we have a problem. So I had to start losing weight. And that's when I started dieting. But it seemed like whenever I would make a little progress, something would break down. I'd have to go get another surgery. And it was just, two steps forward, one step back, two steps forward, one step back. And so it was not an easy process. It took a while for me to just constantly overcome all of these different challenges. And then finally, by the time I hit age 66, my shoulder, thanks to some PRP injections, finally healed to where I could get back in the weight room.
Oh, good.
And I was able to get back in shape again and eventually lost enough weight. And then that's when we had the photo for the cover of the book and the magazine taken.
Cool. Well, you said you have a good story around that shoot, that photo.
Oh,
So
yeah, well,
let's get that story out on the record here.
it was kind of cute. Well, the guy who shot my photo was the same guy who used to shoot for Playboy and Penthouse, so he's really good at making you look better than you really are. Let's just put it that way. And his wife was the makeup artist,
Oh,
and normally she would spend about like maybe 5, 6, 7 minutes putting oil on your shirtless chest and all that. Well, with me, she spent like about half an hour rubbing her hands all over me. And I remember John, the photographer, goes, "Sorry, Dale. Apparently, she loves her job." But he said, "Go stand in front of the camera. Just look relaxed. I want to test the lighting." And so I just stood there and just relaxed. He took that one picture, and that's the one that we ended up using, the test shot. The other 99 looked like crap, I think. And so we just got lucky. Next thing I know, that same photo was on the cover of My Vegas magazine, and they did a big story about me. And so here in Las Vegas, I kind of became like a miniature 12th tier celebrity. People would recognize me and that kind of thing. And I remember I was in the clubhouse gym working out one day, and there was this lady kind of staring at me from the side of the gym. You could tell she knew me from somewhere, but she couldn't quite place it.
yeah.
And so she finally walks up to me, and we have a lot of real celebrities that live in my neighborhood here. You meet them all the time. And she walks up and goes, "Should I know you?" And I go, "Well, that depends. How low are your standards?"
Oh, man.
And she goes, "I've seen you somewhere before." I go, "Yes, probably a magazine cover." She goes, "Oh, that's it, that's it." And so uh and then we use that same photo. The magazine kind of led to me writing the book. We just used the same photo on the book cover. And there you have it.
Now in the gym, I think recently you ran into, is it Shaquille O'Neal?
Yeah, yeah. Oh my God. And the other day, just 2 days ago, remember the guy who used to do the Good Hands Allstate commercials, the black guy with a really deep voice.
Yeah.
Um, I can't remember. I don't know his name. I don't think anybody knows his name, but he's famous. I ran into him just a couple days ago. I was talking to him. We had a great conversation. But yeah, meeting Shaq was, oh, geez. I got to tell you, he is the sweetest, nicest guy you'll ever meet in your life. And he's twice as big as you think he is.
Really?
Something about TV makes him look small. When you meet him in person, you're literally just looking up at him like this. He seems like he's 12 feet tall.
Wow.
And I, it was funny. I was over on one side of the gym working out, and I saw him talking to, I think, the gym manager, and he was talking about me. And he came over to me and he goes, "Excuse me, brother, can I ask you a question?" I go, "Jack, yes." You know, I was just gobsmacked. And he said, "How old are you?" And I said, "Well, I'll be 70 years old this year." And he goes, "My God, I've never seen anybody as buffed as you at 70 years old. I said, what's your secret?" And if I had half a brain, I would have brought up my book, and then told him about it. But no, I was too busy gushing like a 12-year-old schoolgirl meeting Paul McCartney in 1964. I just lost it. And I think he finally gave up on me. He was laughing so hard and he shook hands with me. And for him to shake hands with a normal person like me is almost embarrassing. It's like me shaking hands with a baby. My hand just gets engulfed in that catcher's mitt of a hand that he has there. It's just kind of awkward, but it was fun.
I
Great thrill.
Yeah, it does change your whole perspective, doesn't it?
Hmm.
That's great.
No, he was such a sweetheart, just a sweetheart of a guy. He's one of those guys that he knows who he is, but he doesn't act like he knows who he is. He acts like a normal guy, and that's just and like he's thrilled to meet everybody.
That's refreshing. That is
Yeah,
very refreshing. That
yeah. I've been very, very lucky in my life. I've got to meet tons of rock stars and a few celebrities and I could honestly say every single one of them that I've ever met was a sweetheart, was really, really super nice.
that's awesome. That is
Yeah.
awesome. So let's talk a little bit about the because you started working out again and you've battled a lot of this stuff that you bounce back and forth just from recovery and
Yeah.
uh, and getting on track. And in your book you do discuss, we're not going to go into supplements and stuff that will get kind of dull and boring, and you don't want me falling asleep. I'm the host. So
Thank God, because that's so scientific, and I've got a
yes.
list of notes that I prepared here just in case you wanted to.
Well, I think I want to talk a little bit about your eating. You discussed different eating plans, and I, for one, have tried the keto. I tried it twice, and it was okay. But the first time I tried it, I think I got sick from it because it was
Oh,
so much protein. Um,
uh-huh.
my body just wasn't adapting. And I do like the idea of the Mediterranean diet. So when I got your book out and I was reading it, I started changing my Costco list. I have to admit. I'm like, okay, we're gonna make some adjustments here. But I'd like you to discuss eating plans and that kind of a thing because there's so much stuff out there there's so many options and people get confused in trying to figure out, well, how do I lose weight? And then there's a pill on every commercial, there's
Oh yeah,
this
yeah,
magic pill and that magic pill.
yeah. I've tried all the magic pills; they didn't work for me. I guess when it comes to discussing diet, the first thing you have to realize is that we've been lied to and poisoned our entire lives. And big government has been in bed with big pharma and the big food producers. And the things that we have all been raised on
Mhm.
are quite literally poison. In my notes here, uh, insulin resistance is the number one cause of everybody's problems. 80% of all deaths and diseases are caused by insulin resistance. Can you imagine that? 80%? That means autoimmune disease, cancer, you name it, diabetes. And what causes that? Well, it's our diets. Excessive sugar, grains, and toxic seed oils are the culprit. Now, good example, you and I were both raised as children on breakfast cereal,
Mhm.
right? Like good old American cornflakes. Now, you wouldn't think there's anything harmful in that.
Wouldn't think so.
just a bowl of cornflakes by itself, no sugar on it. This cornflakes by itself has a glycemic value of 81. A Snickers bar is only 55. So
Oh,
we're feeding our kids something that's even worse than a candy bar for breakfast. And the other lie they always gave us was, well, and slice a banana, put that on there because they're full of potassium. Well, that's another lie. They're not, but they do make you fat. Bananas will make you fat. And then add a glass of orange juice. Well, there's so much sugar in orange juice. You add that to the cornflakes and the banana, and you're probably looking at a glycemic value of about 150. The human body can only absorb 5 grams of sugar a day
mm.
healthy. Anything over 5 grams gets converted to diabetes, cancer, and all sorts of other diseases. It's so addictive, and they knew this going in. That's
Oh,
the whole idea, is to get us all addicted to sugar because it's the number one worst thing you can put in your body. It's actually probably worse than smoking because more
yeah.
people die of their diets than they do of smoking.
Well, I've heard numbers that sugar is like 7 times more addictive than cocaine.
Yeah,
I,
yeah. I talked about that in my book. They tested mice, and the mice were far more addicted to sugar than they were cocaine. And so I mentally pictured the little mice meeting in back alleys with their little bags of Coke and their little bags of sugar, trying to make a trade.
right, right. I know you get that. Yeah, I've heard that for years. I think it was back in the 80s. I read that book about sugar, and I forget the name of it right now, but it was very popular, just a small
Hmm.
book. And but I had been coming off of sugar anyway for some time. But you just described my dad's breakfast when you said cornflakes. Big
Yeah,
old big old bowl of cornflakes, regular milk, and now milk I learned years ago from from a a nutritionist person that regular milk has is high in sugar. Now you got to
yep,
use heavy cream is great, but
yeah.
but my dad would have that big old bowl of cornflakes and pour the milk on it and and he never he I am surprised he died of cancer, so that doesn't totally surprise me either. He didn't.
No, sugar is really the silent killer in this country. It's incredible. 93% of all Americans, now get that number, 93% suffer from one form of insulin resistance or another,
I believe it.
which means all of us. We're all being poisoned, and 129 million Americans suffer from at least one chronic disease caused by all of this, and it's all due to insulin resistance.
How did you, I mean, I read your book, but I haven't yet. So how did you transition into eating better? And did you try different styles of eating before you found what worked for you?
I was really, really lucky. One of my best friends is a professional bodybuilder and physique model, and he's in the over 65 age group. His name's Steve Taylor. He's one of the top three in the world.
Hmm.
And so I get most of my dieting advice from him because nobody knows more about dieting than bodybuilders because they have to get down to ridiculously low amounts of body fat for competitions and for exhibitions and for shows and everything. And that's what Steve taught me was the keto diet and how he does it. And his secret is 5 tiny little, I mean, you can put the meals in your hand, 5 keto meals a day, about every 2 hours apart, and try to keep about, of course, he weighs about 220 pounds when he's ripped. And so you want to get a pound or a gram of protein for every pound of body weight that you have. That's the whole idea. Stick to very, very clean carbs. There's some vegetables that are good. Broccoli's outstanding. That's really, really good for you. Potatoes are bad. Sweet potatoes are okay.
Yeah.
But you just got to stay away from processed foods. That's what's killing everybody. That's what makes us all fat.
Oh, yeah. And get addicted to something like salty chips. But I have to admit I do like my tortilla chips. Those
Yeah,
those are
I
kind
didn't
of
mean
hard. Uh,
didn't mean to interrupt. Toxic seed oils, the three main culprits that are killing everybody in this country: sugar, toxic seed oils, and grains are the culprit. And when you mentioned potato chips, that's where toxic seed oils, they're all cooked
Uh-huh.
in these ridiculous chemical concoctions that aren't even real oils. The only good oil you can cook anything in is avocado oil or coconut oil. All the others, just you're just setting yourself up for disease of some kind.
What about
So when you walk into, I'm
olive,
sorry,
olive oil?
olive oil is great.
Yeah.
That's the secret of the Mediterranean diet, actually, is olive oil. In chapter 14 of my book, there's a great story of a personal friend of mine. Her name's Christina Royale. And you mentioned the Mediterranean diet. Well, that's what she used. She weighed 320 pounds, and she was so obese that her circulation was starting to shut off. And the doctors told her they were going to have to amputate her toes. And so she started out. She finally realized she was going to die if she didn't diet. So she tried the keto diet, and it was just a little too restrictive for her. So she went to the Mediterranean diet that you mentioned and bought a bike and started getting her body moving. That's step one. Get your body moving. Just get off the couch, go for a walk around the block. Next night, see if you can go 2 blocks, that kind of thing. And that's what she did. She started riding her little bike. And before you knew it, she'd lost like 40 pounds and was riding from her house clear up to Lake Mead and back every day, which is just, I don't know how many miles that is. And she ended up, long story short, losing 160 pounds. And she was so fat and obese and in such lousy health. She suffered from almost every known disease there was. And she told me, she said, Dale, I found out after I lost all that weight, all the diseases I suffered from went away. The diabetes vanished, the high blood pressure went away, just everything. And now she takes kickboxing lessons. She lifts weights fanatically. She's really into bodybuilding, but she just totally turned her life around. I'm so proud of her. That's why I featured her in my book. I thought her story was just incredible.
It really is. I'm one of those people that you just want it to be, you want to go in full force, and our bodies just need us to take it easy, take it slow, like you said, one
Yeah,
block, then 2 blocks. Don't try to go run a marathon if you've never run. And
yeah. Well, it's funny. Most people who've never exercised, and exercise really is the secret, but who've never exercised, their idea of exercise is running from responsibilities, stretching the truth, and jumping to conclusions. It's just they're just couch potatoes and watch some guy on TV do it for you. And you can't do that. You've got to get up and get moving.
yeah, I have recently purchased an indoor trampoline. I used to have one, sold it, and because I didn't have room for it. So I bought another one, and it's one of my favorite things to do because it's really good for the limb system.
Yeah,
And even if you just get on there and just gently bounce, it does a lot for you. And before you know it, you're jogging on it and you're jumping, and
yeah.
it's fun. I just put on music and go for it.
You're working muscles that you never even realized you had on a
Yeah.
trampoline.
Mm.
So it's awesome. I've just recently started doing the stair climber in our gym, and I completely tore my. This was back in January. Tore my hamstring where
Oh,
it connects to your butt, and I managed to tear something in my groin. So I was just a complete mess, and it wouldn't heal. I went about 2 months without anything healing, and so Brenda and I, kind of in desperation, went to Cabo for stem cell injections. And it totally saved me, totally cured me. Funny little story. When we went there, the place we went to is called STEM Aid, and it's in the Palmilla, which is like the most luxurious resort in all of Cabo. Really beautiful place. But the nurses can't speak a word of English. They're really good at what they do, but they can't speak a word of English. And I remember, and you get to sit in these really cushy Barca loungers while they hook up your IV. And the little nurse brought my first bag of whatever it was, stem cells, to hook up to me, and my name was written on the bag, Dale, and she goes, looks at it, she goes, Dally. I go, no, no, it's Dale. She goes, you Dally. And so from then on, I was Dally. And when she went to put the the first needle in my arm. She was so cute. I kind of flinched a little bit, and she looked up at me and she goes, "No cry, darling."
That's great.
So that got to be our catchphrase. Every time I went there, it was "No cry, darling, no cry."
And this process helped heal your muscles.
Totally healed the torn muscles. It was just like a miracle. When
Yeah.
we were there, we ran into people who were just, oh my God, there's the success stories they told us. There were people there suffering from Lyme disease, um, all sorts of nervous disorders, whatever. I mean, anything you can dream up of. One guy, this fellow from Africa, poor old guy, came in on a scooter because he couldn't walk, and he was hooked up to oxygen because he couldn't breathe. And they would always, I made friends with him because I thought, oh, he's going to be gone in 6 months. He's going to be dead, you know. And so I tried to show him as much love as I could. And they'd have to take him down the other end of the building because he was hawking up so much phlegm out of his lungs. And it was
Oh,
just a sad story. Then after we left, they featured him in the newsletter, and he's off the scooter walking around and no oxygen. And he's just a totally cured human being.
that's fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Yeah,
fantastic.
amazing. Well, one of the guys we went back when we left there, we went to the airport in the limo. This guy from Costa Rica, and he goes there every 6 months now, just like clockwork. And he told me when he first went there, he went there on crutches. He had two of those walking crutches on each arm. He said his back was so destroyed he could barely sit down or walk. And he said after about he's been there 4 times, and now he's playing in tennis tournaments.
Wow,
So can you imagine?
that's amazing. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. Do you guys work out together, you and Brenda?
She's got a really bad hip problem right now. She really needs to have a hip replacement, but she can't because she has osteoporosis really bad.
Mm.
But we went there and she got injections in her hip, and it just really made a huge difference.
Oh, that's
So
great.
up until just recently, yeah, we weren't working out together, but now she's able to come down and kind of join me, and it's great.
Oh, excellent. There's so many things you can do. There's always an option for us.
Hmm.
There's always an option and a way to heal. And the body heals itself. I'm a big proponent of that. And so I don't recall, do you mention just the mindset shift? I think you do. I think you do discuss that because it is a mindset for us to
Well, it is. I use the term when you're faced with a what seems to be a gigantic, insurmountable problem. The way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time,
right.
and that's the way you do it. You don't like when started my weight loss journey of 70 pounds. I tried not to think of 70 pounds. I tried to think of 1 pound at a day, maybe 5 pounds. That was my goal. Lose 5 pounds. Okay, fine. Now let's lose another five. Now let's lose another five. Um, that phrase, "way to eat an elephant," just sparked another story. Um, there's this really lovely little Russian lady that works in the clubhouse gym where I go all the time, and she always greets me, "Hi, Dale." And she knew who I was, and I never knew who she was. She's one of the employees there. And so one day I just thought I would introduce myself to her since we're going to be friends.
Hmm.
And I walked up and said, "Hi, my name's Dale Parkinson. Nice to meet you." And she goes, "Oh, everybody here know who you are. You famous author." I go, "What, really? Are you kidding me?" And she goes, "Oh, yes. I go, does everybody buy my book?" And she goes, "Oh, no, nobody buy book. We just like to go online and look at your picture."
Oh, do
I
you
said,
still?
"Well,
Oh
I
my.
said, well, people like you are the reason my royalty check doesn't even cover my bar tab."
Do you sell it in the gym? Is a book in the gym?
No, it's just on Amazon.
Oh, okay.
Well, there's I think Barnes and Noble online bookstore and about 10 others, but primarily Amazon.
Excellent, excellent.
Yeah.
Well, our audience will have access to the link to go buy it at the end of the podcast, as well as some information on you and probably a photo. I don't know, we might just use the one on the book, you know.
I'd appreciate that. That'd be nice. Thank you so
And
much.
any final words? We're going to wrap it up. We do about a half hour with these podcasts or so. So, what are your
Oh,
final parting words for our wonderful audience?
I do have one. It's actually not from me. It was written by the lady that wrote my story in the magazine.
Hmm.
And I thought it was so good, I put it in my book. Her name was Sarah Moninger. But she says the only person capable of writing the final chapter is the one who refuses to stay down. Kind of a Rocky Balboa thing, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Well, you've accomplished a lot, Dale, and I'm just so appreciative of you being on here. It's been
Oh,
fun.
bless your heart. Thank you.
Oh, I just love the stories, and we'll have this available, your book available for people to learn more about you and be encouraged. And you do share a lot of valuable information. Like I said, I changed my Costco list after I started reading. So
I hope I don't get nasty letters from Costco now, but thank you.
I don't know. We should get royalty checks every time I mention somebody. Maybe they could be my sponsor or something.
Yeah.
So anyway, well, I want to thank our audience again for dropping in and listening to Courage, Confidence, Connections podcast. Thank you, Dale Parkinson, and we'll be back for another episode soon.
Thank you, my friend. Bye bye.